There have been many times in which I've gotten into arguments about objectivity and subjectivity. I thought that people were smart and knew the difference between liking something and it being good, or disliking something and it being bad, or even liking something even while it's bad and disliking something even though it's good. It was after having the same argument with multiple people about fact versus opinion that I decided to make this video. Okay, so first things first, to know how to review a video game, looking at you IGN, pay attention. It's important to know what objectivity and subjectivity are. In the context of video games, objectivity is a measure of quality. What makes it good and what makes it bad. The quality of a game is not debatable. It's like a math problem. Through analysis, you can figure out what the quality of a game truly is. Subjectivity is how you personally like or dislike a video game. It's your opinion. It doesn't matter how good a game might be, you personally might not enjoy it. Since every person on Earth is different, sometimes you just won't enjoy a game, no matter how good it might be. The inverse is also true. The game could be really bad, but you could still enjoy it. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, it's time to apply these definitions to objectively reviewing video games. The foundation of a review is that it doesn't matter what you think, it matters what's true. When you're analyzing a video game, especially as a critic, your analysis should be as objective as possible. None of your opinions matter unless they provide necessary insight to the complete review of a game, which is to say, it's okay to be subjective in isolation. Your personal experience with the game is valid. Everyone has a unique playthrough of the game, but it's important to remember that your experience is not the game. So prioritize objectivity, sprinkle in some opinion. There are a few metrics to consider when evaluating the quality of a game, and each one is of nearly the same importance. Number 1. The gameplay. When you think about gameplay, there is exactly one question to ask. Is it fun to play? Beyond that, there's nothing to it. If you're a critic, you should probably explore and analyze why it's fun, or how it's fun. What exactly about it is fun. If the gameplay is complex, each aspect should be considered individually, and how that aspect interacts with the other systems of the game. Number 1.5, the controls. This falls into the subcategory of gameplay because the controls are what let you play the game. A video game is what it is because of the interactivity that it gives to the player. But it's kind of hard to enjoy the gameplay, no matter how well designed it is, if the controls suck. The platforming in Celeste is an amazingly fun challenge because the controls are easy to learn, hard to master, and never the cause of any of your deaths. The tank controls in the original Resident Evil trilogy are the cause of many deaths. They are the killer of both fun and tension in the game whenever I play, and it's not a skill issue. It's a design issue. Number 2. The story. The most memorable games hook their players with unique, investing, and intriguing stories, especially in RPGs. Hours upon hours can be spent on a game, which balances gameplay and story very well, and also keeps each new plot point and skill check as interesting as the last. The best stories hook you early with fascinating characters and setting, and keep you hooked through interesting developments in the plot, and the whole time building up to a satisfying and fulfilling conclusion in the story. But wait, a lot of games don't have stories. What do I do then? It's important to note that yes, a lot of games don't have stories, and they don't need stories either. Even though video games are undoubtedly the best medium for telling stories, fight me, sometimes a game is better without a story, or at the very least, doesn't need one. It is for that reason that if you find a game without a story, disregard this point from the list. Number 3. Graphics. When I say graphics, you say appeal. Graphics. Appeal, you say? Let's talk about that. The appeal of graphics is derived from their aesthetic, which is traditionally defined as the beauty of something. In order to determine if the graphics are appealing, you need to consider the consistency of the quality and style of the visuals. To dumb it down even further, it doesn't have to be photorealistic to look good, although it can't be uncanny or inconsistent. And finally, it has to have a unique style. You should be able to visually identify a game just from the way it looks. The best way to explain this is with examples, but most of the time you should be able to tell the quality of an art direction on your own, even if you personally don't like it. Any game from the N64 or PlayStation is not appealing. Obviously they did the best they could for the time, so they shouldn't be judged too harshly, but those games are a reminder of what not to do. So any modern game with jagged edges and low resolution textures just aren't very appealing. The animation of a game should feel smooth. Don't apply mocap data to a non-human character. Thank you for not inducing bleeding in my eyes. Number 3.5. audio. This goes hand in hand with the visuals and the gameplay to form a feedback loop that makes a video game a video game. A silent game would be eerie, but just having sound isn't enough. You've got to use it. In a believable 3D space, sound is dynamic in the same way that lighting is in the visual category. It often goes unnoticed outside of a badass boss theme, but if it's broken, the gamers will notice. Number 4. Performance. Performance is the most important aspect of a game, and at the same time, doesn't matter at all. If a game performs well, nobody really cares. But if a game doesn't perform well, then it's really bad. Performance is the foundation of a good game. Without it, you can't enjoy the good aspects of it as well, but performance alone is irrelevant. Intrusive and long loading screens, laggy frame rate, glitchy gameplay, and improperly implemented physics or lighting systems are all things to watch out for. To go above and beyond, optimizing the game to buttery smoothness, eliminating loading screens, no bugs, 4K at 120 frames per second, ray tracing are the modern expectations of a game performing well. And there you have it, the ingredients for crafting a good game. When developers are busy creating the experience for gamers, they're privy to every single one of these points. But too many gamers aren't aware of the things that go into development. Too many gamers aren't aware of what makes a game good beyond their initial experience. I personally noticed this trend after being a dungeon master in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Crafting a campaign is similar in many ways, and there's a lot more going on behind the dungeon master screen than most people would think. Video games and D&D are both interactive storytelling mediums, and therefore, in my opinion, the best. Subscribe and stay tuned in for why I think books are inferior.